The sky above Earth was unusually bright that morning, though it was not the sun that caused the light. Massive ships, larger than anything humanity had ever built, hovered silently over every major city. Their polished hulls reflected the blue of the oceans and the green of forests, making them look almost beautiful, yet their presence carried a weight that made hearts pound with fear. In New York, Elias Grant, captain of the Orbital Defense Fleet, stood at the command center, staring at the screens. "They've arrived," he said quietly, his voice calm but firm. Around him, officers and analysts moved with a mix of awe and tension. Every eye in the room was fixed on the massive vessels. The Galactic Council fleet had come, not for diplomacy, as humans understood it, but for observation, assessment, and control. "They're peaceful. For now," said Lieutenant Kira Chen, her tone cautious. "But they don't look like visitors." Elias nodded. "Peaceful doesn't mean harmless. Remember that." He had spent years preparing for this moment, though no one had truly believed it would arrive in his lifetime. Earth had been labeled a death world, a dangerous planet where humans survived impossible environments, fought countless wars, and still thrived. To the Council, such resilience was a threat. They had arrived to remind humanity that, in the eyes of the galaxy, humans were dangerous children who must be controlled. Meanwhile, in the United Nations Council chamber, representatives from every nation gathered, trying to maintain a facade of civility. The Council envoys had landed in their largest ship, a shining tower that dwarfed the tallest skyscraper. Their appearance was alien in every sense. Tall, with elongated limbs, skin like polished bronze, and eyes that glowed faintly in shifting colors. Ambassador Selene Mori spoke first. "On behalf of Earth, we welcome you," she said, keeping her voice steady. "We hope this meeting begins a new era of cooperation." The aliens tilted their heads, almost as if they were amused. "Cooperation requires obedience," said the lead envoy, its voice deep and resonant. "Your species has been deemed reckless. Civilization demands order. You will comply with the Council's regulations." The room went silent. The word comply echoed in everyone's mind, sharp and cold. Humans were being told, in no uncertain terms, that their freedom was at risk. Yet no one in the room showed fear, not openly. Earth's leaders had learned the value of keeping calm, of speaking measured words, even when the world trembled beneath them. Outside in the streets, citizens watched the massive ships hover silently. There were no sirens, no alarms. People instinctively knew that any rash action would provoke disaster. Children clutched their parents' hands, and adults whispered quietly about what might come next. The human instinct for survival was strong, but it was tempered by something else: patience. In orbit, Captain Elias observed the Council fleet carefully. He had seen their formations, their weapon arrays, and the sheer size of their ships. "They underestimate us," he muttered to himself. His officers exchanged glances but said nothing. They knew better than to interrupt. Elias had a reputation for calm analysis, and his judgment was almost always correct. In the Council's great ship, the envoy communicated with its superiors. "The humans are controlled. They do not resist. Their response is polite. They are not violent." The Council leaders, watching from their distant chambers, nodded. "Then they are ready for guidance," one said. "Earth will learn order." But what the Council did not understand was that humans were not tamed. They were restrained. Every smile, every bow, every nod in the Council chamber was carefully measured. Inside, the human mind raced with 1,000 possibilities. They had learned to survive the impossible, to thrive on planets that seemed uninhabitable. The Council believed patience was weakness, but it was, in fact, preparation. In a quiet part of New York, Elias walked among the fleet crew. Soldiers and engineers moved with purpose, checking systems, monitoring the alien ships, and preparing for any scenario. "How long do you think we can keep this up?" asked Ensign Rami Patel, younger than most and clearly anxious. Elias smiled, faintly. "As long as we need to. Remember, patience is a weapon too. They do not know what humans are capable of yet. Let them think we are controlled." Meanwhile, across the globe, humanity reacted in subtle ways. Factories did not stop. Cities continued their routines. Farmers in Africa, miners in Australia, scientists in Japan, all continued their work with quiet resolve. This was the first lesson the Council did not expect. Humans could appear calm and civilized while their minds worked faster than any alien logic could predict. The aliens attempted to impress humans with their technology. They demonstrated energy, shields that could withstand massive impacts, weapons that could vaporize mountains, and sensors that could see through entire cities. To any other species, these demonstrations would have been terrifying. To humans, they were warnings, but not threats. In the command center, Elias studied the readings carefully. He noticed subtle weaknesses in the alien formations, gaps that could be exploited. Interesting, he muttered. They assume we will react the same way every time. They do not understand human unpredictability. Back in the council chamber, tensions were rising. One alien delegate accidentally brushed past a human representative. The touch was unintended, but in human culture, it was a sign of disrespect. The human smiled politely, masking irritation. The alien, observing the calm reaction, concluded the humans were obedient, but in secret whispers spread among humans. "This is an insult," said one officer. "They think we will not respond." Others nodded quietly. The council believed. Humans were tamed, but their restraint was not weakness. It was waiting, watching, and learning. As the day passed, the council fleet hovered silently, studying humans, believing their presence alone was enough to maintain control. But humans, especially those like Elias and his crew, were already planning. Plans for defense, strategies for surprise, and ways to turn the aliens' arrogance against them were quietly forming. In the skies, human drones monitored every council ship, noting energy patterns, shield strengths, and communication signals. On the ground, scientists prepared devices that could interfere with alien sensors, giving humans an edge if confrontation became necessary. The restraint of civilization was only skin deep. Beneath it lay years of ingenuity, adaptability, and survival instinct. As night fell, the lights of Earth reflected off the hulls of alien ships. People across the planet watched from rooftops and streets. There was fear, yes, but also pride. For the first time, many realized that humans had endured every challenge the universe could throw at them. They had survived plagues, wars, environmental collapse, and now they faced a species that believed civilization could be imposed upon them. Elias stood at the observation deck, looking at the largest council vessel. Its engines hummed softly, but to him it was just another challenge. "Let them think we are controlled," he said quietly. "Soon they will learn that humans are not what they seem. We are not weak. We are patient, and patience can be deadly." Across the planet, the first spark of quiet defiance began to burn. It was invisible to the council, unnoticed by the envoys, but it existed. Humanity had chosen to endure, to observe, and to wait. But when the time came, the calm would shatter, and the galaxy would see the true strength of Deathworlders. For now, Earth remained calm, polite, and civilized. The humans acted as the council expected. But beneath the surface, a storm was building, a storm that no alien logic, technology, or diplomacy could ever contain. The day had begun with bright skies and silent ships. By nightfall, the council believed they had tamed the humans. They were wrong, and Captain Elias Grant knew it. The sun rose over Earth, but its light could not cut through the tension that had settled across the planet. In every major city, screens displayed images of the council fleet, reminding humans that the galaxy's most powerful species was watching. The aliens had arrived under the guise of diplomacy, yet their presence was heavy with command, with a silent insistence that humans follow rules crafted far beyond their understanding. Captain Elias Grant, standing on the observation deck of the Earth Defense Command Station in orbit, watched the alien ships carefully. He could feel the simmering unrest among humans below. It was not anger yet, but it was close, like water heating before it boils. Elias had trained for this. He knew that humans could endure and restrain themselves for a long time. But there was a limit. Even a Deathworlder had a breaking point. Down in the council chamber, the aliens were preparing what they called the next step in civilization enforcement. Documents, displays, and holograms outlined the measures they believed were necessary. Human ships would be dismantled, energy weapons would be removed from service, and orbital defenses would be partially disabled, all to ensure compliance. Ambassador Selena Mori sat across from the lead envoy, maintaining her composure, despite the humiliating orders. You cannot expect humanity to simply hand over all defensive capability without consideration, she said calmly. The alien tilted its head, its eyes flickering with colored light. Your species is dangerous. These steps are necessary for the safety of all. Human patience stretched thinner with every passing hour. In cities, people whispered about what they were being forced to give up. Soldiers questioned their leaders quietly. Engineers and scientists felt frustration bubbling beneath their professional calm. They were not weak, but they were being pushed into a corner. At the orbital command station, Elias convened a private meeting with senior officers. They want to dismantle our ships, he said. They think it will make us obedient. They think patience is weakness. It is not. Lieutenant Kira Chen frowned. What do we do if they try to enforce it immediately? Elias's eyes narrowed. Then we comply on the surface, but we prepare for what they cannot see. Their mistake is thinking humans only act within their rules. They cannot control instinct, ingenuity, or survival. Meanwhile, a minor incident on the ground tested humanity's patience. An alien guard, unfamiliar with human protocols, shoved a human officer during a routine inspection. It was a small action, yet it carried meaning. Disrespect. The officer smiled, bowed slightly, and said nothing, keeping the calm everyone expected. But whispers spread. Soldiers discussed the insult in hushed tones. Civilians, watching the broadcast, shared the story online, igniting a wave of frustration. Social media buzzed with one message. We are not toys. We are humans. We will not be humiliated. The council envoys remained unaware of the brewing storm. To them, the humans' polite restraint seemed proof that the plan was working. The galaxy's most feared species, they thought, had been tamed by civility. They could not see the quiet calculations, the mental preparation, or the simmering tension that would soon break. In a hidden facility beneath the Rockies, engineers and scientists began accelerating projects that had been kept secret for decades. Old satellites were brought back online. Communication systems that could bypass alien interference were tested. Drones, designed for exploration and repair, were retrofitted for defense. Humanity's ingenuity, once hidden beneath layers of civilization, began to stir. In orbit, Elias monitored the alien movements. They underestimate our patience, he said quietly. And patience is dangerous when it runs out. At the United Nations Chamber, the aliens continued their lecture on compliance. Resistance is illogical, the envoy stated. Obedience ensures survival. A human representative spoke next, her voice calm but firm. We are not illogical. We value life and we value freedom. You are not teaching civility. You are attempting control. Do not mistake our patience for weakness. The room went silent. The aliens did not understand nuance. They believed that humans only operated on immediate threats, not long-term strategy. They could not see that the restraint humans had practiced for generations was, in itself, preparation for moments like this. Back in the field, minor confrontations began to appear. Small groups of humans challenged alien instructions subtly. A soldier questioning a procedure, an engineer testing limits, a pilot refusing a nonsensical order. Each act was minor, but the accumulation created pressure that the council had not anticipated. In orbit, Elias's crew began coordinated exercises, testing human adaptability against alien technology. Every maneuver, Every simulation revealed a critical truth. Humans were unpredictable. Where the aliens expected caution, humans demonstrated boldness. Where the aliens assumed fear, humans displayed control. One evening, a council ship initiated a demonstration, an energy pulse over a small city meant to intimidate the population. Alarms blared, but humans did not panic. Emergency crews moved efficiently, evacuating citizens, shielding infrastructure, and assessing the alien display. Elias observed from orbit. They wanted fear, he said. They got efficiency instead. We do not break under pressure. We adapt. The demonstration ended, leaving minor damage but no casualties. The council calculated it as a success, but human ingenuity had silently turned the test into preparation. The people had learned the patterns of the alien technology, studied their response times, and shared information globally. What was intended as intimidation became training. In hidden rooms beneath major cities, civilians quietly built tools and devices that could exploit small weaknesses in the council's systems. Children, unaware of the larger picture, were fascinated by drones and satellites. Scientists and engineers worked tirelessly, knowing that every small advantage could become vital if patience ran out. Back in orbit, Elias watched the alien fleet assemble in a tight formation over the Atlantic. Their intent was obvious. They were positioning to enforce compliance on a larger scale. They believe this will break us, he said, but they do not understand human resilience. They have no idea what patience hides. That night, the world seemed calm. The lights of cities reflected off the alien ships above. Humans moved quietly, working, living, and preparing. No one spoke of rebellion, yet everywhere small acts of defiance unfolded. People resisted humiliation without openly challenging authority. Soldiers learned alien protocols only to devise counter-strategies. Scientists studied energy patterns. Engineers mapped weaknesses, and civilians shared intelligence that would have been considered trivial by the council, but which would become invaluable. Elias convened his senior team again. We have tolerated much today, he said. Insults, threats, and arrogance. We have acted civilized because we chose to, but every civilization has a limit. Every species has a breaking point, and humanity is close to ours. Kira leaned forward. How will we know when the time comes? Elias's eyes gleamed. When they think we have nothing left, that patience is weakness. That is when the mask falls. The first sparks of revolt were not loud or violent. They were subtle, strategic, and intelligent. A technician altered a satellite program to track alien ships more efficiently. A pilot practiced evasive maneuvers that exploited blind spots in alien sensors. Communities organized quietly to support defensive measures. From orbit, Elias smiled, faintly. They think they control us, he muttered. But control is an illusion. They cannot see the storm building beneath their gaze. The council, confident in their victory, believed that humanity's silence was compliance. They misread restraint as submission. They failed to understand that the calm surface of a Deathworlder hides a tempest. By nightfall, the world had changed. Not visibly, not violently, but fundamentally. Humans had begun to prepare in ways the Council could not predict, could not detect, and would not understand, until it was too late. On the observation deck, Elias Grant looked at Earth, glowing beneath the Council fleet. The day we break, he said quietly, will not be for vengeance. It will be to remind the galaxy that humans are not what they seem, and once that day comes, they will remember it forever. For now, humanity waited. Calm, polite, civilized, at least on the surface. But the first cracks had formed. The mask of civility was starting to fracture, and the galaxy would not know why. The silence of the early morning was deceptive. Across the globe, cities bustled as usual, factories hummed with activity, and children laughed in playgrounds. To any casual observer, life went on as normal. Yet beneath that calm, a storm of preparation and quiet defiance was growing. Captain Elias Grant sat in the command room of Earth Defense Command, staring at a holographic display of the Council fleet. Each ship moved predictably, forming tight formations that reflected years of alien military discipline. On the surface, it looked orderly, controlled, and unbeatable. Elias, however, saw something different. The patterns were rigid, the maneuvers predictable, and the aliens had made one fatal mistake. They underestimated the humans' willingness to think beyond their expectations. Lieutenant Kira Chen leaned over the display. Their formation is strong, but they move as one. Any deviation would be noticed immediately. Elias smiled faintly. Exactly. But humans do not always follow predictable patterns. That's why we have waited, studied, and prepared. When the time comes, chaos will be our ally. In hidden command centers under the Rockies, the humans' secret preparations accelerated. Engineers fine-tuned drones. Scientists adapted old satellites for strategic defense, and programmers created systems to disrupt alien communications if necessary. Every small act invisible to the alien observers above was part of a greater design, a web of preparation that stretched across the globe. On the surface, the Council envoys continued their work, confident that Earth was under control. They visited cities, oversaw minor installations, and delivered lectures on the value of obedience. They did not notice the subtle resistance growing beneath their eyes. Civilians studying energy signals, soldiers quietly mapping alien routines, and engineers experimenting with ways to exploit alien technology. It was in the midst of this apparent calm that the first spark of action ignited. A small research team in the Sahara Desert working under strict secrecy had adapted a cluster of satellites to monitor the Council fleet's shields. Using signals no alien device could detect, they discovered a pattern, a tiny but exploitable gap in the fleet's defense matrix. Elias received the data immediately. Finally, he murmured, the first spark. The team in the desert had worked quietly, their small facility hidden beneath the sands. Equipment hummed as calculations ran nonstop. They were not soldiers, yet they understood the stakes. Every calculation, every adjustment, brought them closer to the moment when humans would no longer act civilized, not because they wanted war, but because survival demanded strength. Meanwhile, the Council fleet began its own demonstrations of power. An alien ship hovered over Tokyo, projecting a massive energy pulse into the ocean to show its strength. Citizens evacuated calmly, trained for emergencies that were now being tested in real life. Engineers monitored the energy pulse and quickly calculated ways to shield critical infrastructure. What the aliens intended as intimidation became a real-world exercise for human preparedness. In orbit, Elias and his officers ran simulations. They think they intimidate us, he said, but intimidation is only useful when it produces fear. We feel no fear. We feel preparation, strategy, and focus. Kira nodded. And they will not expect our response. Indeed, across the globe, humanity moved in secret. Factories shifted production lines overnight to create emergency supplies. Satellites were retrofitted to relay information, track alien movements, and even jam minor communications if necessary. Civilians, under the guise of routine work, built devices that could assist defense efforts. Even children unwittingly participated, learning drone patterns and testing devices under supervision. Every act, seemingly mundane, contributed to the growing power that the Council could not see. The Council envoys, convinced that the humans were obedient, scheduled a large-scale assembly in Geneva. Leaders from every nation were required to attend as part of the obedience demonstration. Humans complied outwardly. They bowed, shook hands, and followed instructions. Inside, however, minds raced with strategy and calculation. They had waited, learned, and now they were ready to act. Not recklessly, but with precision. Elias gathered his senior officers in the orbital command center. The moment has come, he said. The Council believes patience is weakness. They will never anticipate what we do next. This is the first spark of what will become a blaze. Timing is critical. Precision is everything. The humans' first coordinated action was subtle but significant. Engineers sent signals to disrupt alien sensor arrays over specific cities, creating small blind spots. Satellites relayed real-time data to human ships in orbit, allowing them to monitor alien responses without being detected. On the ground, scientists had created decoy installations to draw alien attention, while real facilities continued operations unhindered. At the Geneva Assembly, the aliens prepared to lecture human leaders once again. "Your compliance is commendable," the lead envoy said. "Continue obedience and civilization will flourish. Resistance is illogical." Ambassador Mori listened politely, nodding carefully. Behind her, other representatives exchanged discreet signals. The humans' plan was already in motion. Every step of the alien speech was being tracked, every gesture measured, and every possible weakness recorded. What appeared as polite civility was actually meticulous observation, preparation, and silent defiance. That night, in the skies above the Pacific, a small fleet of human ships executed the first demonstration of unexpected action. Using the blind spots created by satellite interference, the ships performed maneuvers that had never been attempted before, evading detection completely. To any alien observer, it appeared as if the fleet were simply following instructions. But in reality, the ships had tested the first step in their upcoming countermeasures. Back on Earth, civilians worked quietly to support the effort. Energy grids were monitored, transportation networks prepared for rapid response, and communication hubs remained operational under potential interference. Every sector of human life contributed to the growing network of readiness. The spark of defiance was small, nearly invisible, but it had been lit. Elias watched the simulations from orbit. "They cannot see the storm beneath the surface," he said. "They believe humans only act under command. But humans act when survival demands it, and survival is universal." The aliens, meanwhile, were oblivious. They celebrated apparent success, believing the first tests of human compliance had passed. They could not comprehend subtlety, creativity, or patience as weapons. They had not understood that civilization itself could be a mask, one that hid, a species capable of extraordinary ingenuity when pushed to the edge. Across the globe, small incidents continued to occur. An alien ship over London detected minor interference in its sensors. A patrol over Rio de Janeiro noticed unexpected evasive maneuvers by human drones. The aliens dismissed each incident as technical error or coincidence. They did not yet see the pattern. Humans were learning, adapting, and preparing for decisive action. In orbit, Elias convened one final briefing for the day. "Today we began the spark," he said. "Tomorrow it grows. We act quietly, efficiently, and strategically. The Council believes we are restrained. They will not anticipate our next move. Remember this: patience is not submission. Observation is not fear. Preparation is strength. And when we decide, nothing will be as they expect." That night, humanity rested, but remained alert. Cities glowed under calm skies. The Council fleet reflected on oceans and deserts, and satellites hummed quietly as data flowed through hidden networks. The spark had been lit, invisible to the aliens, yet powerful enough to begin the chain of events that would soon change the galaxy's perception of Earth forever. Elias Grant, standing in the observation deck, looked at the Council's largest ship hovering silently above the Pacific. "They believe they see us," he murmured, "but they do not understand patience. They do not understand Deathworlders, and soon they will learn." The first spark of human defiance had been ignited. What seemed like civility was only the beginning of a calculated awakening. The world continued its routine, calm and polite, but beneath the surface, preparations accelerated. Humanity had waited long, learned much, and was ready to reveal its true strength. And when the time came, the spark would grow into a fire the galaxy could not ignore. The day of reckoning was approaching. Humanity's patience had limits, and those limits were about to be tested, both by the Council and by the humans themselves. For now the spark burned quietly, but it would not remain small for long. The calm of Earth's morning belied the storm that was about to erupt. From orbit, Captain Elias Grant watched the Council fleet array itself in the Atlantic, their enormous hulls gleaming in the rising sun. To the aliens, this display was proof of control, a demonstration of discipline and dominance. They did not see the carefully orchestrated web of human preparation that had been building for weeks, months, even years. Elias turned to his officers, his expression calm but resolute. Today they will learn that patience is not weakness. Every calculation we made, every device we prepared, every drill we ran, it all begins now. Lieutenant Kira Chen's eyes widened. Are we ready for this? The Council is not just strong, they are far beyond anything we've ever faced. Elias nodded. Which is why we must be unpredictable. They expect compliance, they expect fear. We give them neither. On the ground, humans continued daily routines as if nothing had changed. Streets were alive with movement. Offices were busy with work, and cities throbbed with ordinary life. Yet under the surface, people moved with quiet purpose. Factories operated in dual modes, one visible to the Council, producing mundane supplies, and one secret manufacturing devices for strategic use. Satellites relayed real-time intelligence to command centers hidden beneath mountains and oceans. The preparation that had been invisible for so long was about to become visible and devastating. At precisely 0800 hours, the first move was made. A human satellite emitted a low-frequency signal, invisible to alien sensors, subtly interfering with the energy shields of the Council fleet. The disruption was small, just enough to create micro-gaps in the shields. To the Council it appeared as a minor technical fluctuation. To humans, it was the perfect opening. Elias watched the readouts. Phase 1 complete, he murmured. The mask begins to fall. Suddenly, human ships that had been idle in orbit executed synchronized maneuvers. Using the gaps in the alien shields, they approached the outermost vessels, appearing to move cautiously but actually testing vulnerabilities. Each ship was piloted by a crew trained to exploit unpredictability. The Council, confident in their calculations, barely noticed the movements. They assumed the humans were following protocol, predictable, restrained, and harmless. On Earth, soldiers and engineers quietly activated ground-based systems. Sensors, decoys, and communication jammers all came online. Cities became nodes in a global network of preparedness. What had seemed like ordinary infrastructure now formed part of a larger coordinated defense and offense system. The aliens remained blissfully unaware, misreading civility for submission. Then, the first strike. A Council patrol ship, approaching over the Mediterranean, found itself ensnared in a web of human strategy. Drones swarmed, using precise patterns, to interfere with its navigation systems. Communication signals scrambled. Shields flickered unpredictably. The patrol ship tried to adapt, but every move was anticipated, every tactic countered. The humans had turned the aliens' own assumptions against them. Elias monitored the operation from orbit, his voice calm but firm. Keep pushing. Do not hesitate. They believe we act only under command. Show them what preparation can achieve. In the skies over Asia, another human squadron executed evasive maneuvers that the Council could not predict. Ships split and regrouped in chaotic patterns that, paradoxically, were part of a highly organized strategy. Alien commanders watched, stunned. Their algorithms failed to account for human unpredictability, and their attempts to regain control only made the situation worse. On the ground, citizens played their part without knowing it. Transportation systems adapted to emergencies, power grids rerouted to support critical nodes, and hidden devices disrupted alien communications. Every aspect of human life became a component of resistance, an extension of the coordinated strategy. In Geneva, the alien envoys were confused. They are acting outside of expected patterns, one whispered to another. Our calculations, they are failing. Elias allowed himself a small smile. The Council had assumed compliance, but humans had turned restraint into strategy. Patience had become preparation. Civility, a mask hiding deadly efficiency. Hours passed, and the aliens scrambled to respond. Each new human maneuver revealed another layer of unpredictability. Ships that had seemed idle erupted into coordinated strikes. Drones, satellites, and ground-based devices worked together to exploit every micro-flaw in the alien systems. The Council fleet, despite its overwhelming size and power, was forced into chaos. In orbit, Elias gave precise instructions. Target the lead ship's communication array. Use the distraction to weaken shield synchronization across the fleet. Keep civilian areas safe, precision over destruction. The human teams executed flawlessly. The lead ship's communications flickered, shields dropped momentarily, and a ripple of confusion spread through the fleet. For the first time, the aliens realized that humans were not merely surviving, they were orchestrating. Every move was calculated, every response anticipated, and every assumption challenged. On Earth, civilians watched the sky as flashes of light and energy danced across the horizon. Some believed it was a natural phenomenon, others simply assumed the aliens were testing some new display. Few knew that these displays marked the moment humanity had stopped pretending to be merely civilized and had begun showing its true capability. Elias's calm voice echoed across the command center. They think we are restrained. They think patience is weakness. They will learn otherwise. Push forward, but do not act recklessly. Civilization is not submission. Strategy is our weapon. The aliens, facing unexpected losses and disarray, began to retreat. Calculated, disciplined, and confident as they were, they had underestimated the adaptability and unpredictability of humans. They had believed civility equaled weakness. They had believed patience was a sign of obedience. And now, their calculations lay in ruins. As the Council fleet withdrew, Elias allowed himself a moment of quiet reflection. Humanity had not sought destruction for its own sake. They had acted to demonstrate that restraint did not mean weakness, and that the galaxy should not underestimate the species it had long labeled Deathworlders. Across Earth, people continued their routines, unaware that they had participated in a historical turning point. Soldiers, scientists, and civilians alike had contributed to a demonstration of ingenuity, preparation, and coordination that no alien species could have anticipated. The mask of civility had fallen, revealing a species capable of extraordinary action when pushed to the limit. In Geneva, the lead envoy addressed its subordinates, frustration evident even in its measured tone. This is unacceptable. We underestimated them. We misread their intentions. Elias watched the retreating fleet. They assumed they could control us by showing power, he said, but they did not see the preparation, the strategy, and the patience behind the mask. Humanity is not what they expected, and they will not forget this lesson. Across orbit and Earth, preparations continued. Humans knew the Council might return, might attempt another display of dominance, but confidence had shifted. They had shown that when the mask falls, humans act with precision, ingenuity, and force that no alien could predict. As night fell, the stars above reflected the calm cities below. Human eyes were wide with pride and determination. The Council fleet had been forced to retreat not through raw power alone, but through patience, preparation, and calculated action. Civilization had been the mask, strategy had been the sword, and humanity had revealed that its strength lay not only in survival, but in clever, coordinated defiance. Elias stood at the observation deck, looking at the last of the retreating alien ships. They will return, he said. But when they do, they will know this truth. Humans act not only to survive, but to dominate when required. We have acted civilized by choice. That choice is ours alone. For the first time, the galaxy could see a hint of the terrifying truth. Humans had waited, observed, and learned. And when provoked, they would act in ways that no species could anticipate. The mask of civility had fallen. The first strike of humanity's true power had been revealed, and the Council would carry the memory of this day across the stars, a warning for generations. Never underestimate a Deathworlder. The Council fleet, battered and disorganized, had withdrawn from orbit. For the first time in history, a human species had faced the galaxy's most disciplined and powerful force and forced it to retreat, not through raw firepower alone, but through patience, strategy, and relentless ingenuity. Captain Elias Grant stood on the observation deck of the command station, staring at Earth below. Cities glowed like veins of life across the planet's surface. Humanity had not sought destruction for its own sake. They had acted to demonstrate a truth the galaxy had long ignored. Civility is a choice, and restraint does not equal weakness. Lieutenant Kira Chen beside him allowed herself a small smile. "They've never seen anything like this," she said. "Not even their calculations could predict us." Elias nodded. "They assumed they controlled us. They assumed patience was compliance. They assumed civility meant submission. They were wrong on every point, and they will remember it." Across the world, humans continued life as normal. Streets, offices, and homes remained calm. Children played, workers labored, and cities thrived. Yet beneath this ordinary exterior, the events of the day had left a mark. Humans knew the galaxy would not easily forget the message they had sent. They had shown restraint when provoked, strategy when tested, and power when challenged. In Geneva, the alien envoys regrouped in their damaged ship. Their leader's voice resonated through the command chamber, steady but filled with suppressed frustration. "We misjudged them," it admitted. "The species we labeled reckless has shown cunning, coordination, and capability beyond our models. Earth is no ordinary planet. Humans are unpredictable, dangerous in ways we cannot calculate." The Council, known for its confidence and arrogance, had been forced to acknowledge a hard truth. Humans were not merely survivors of a death world. They were masters of adaptation, ingenuity, and strategy. They had survived every trial the universe had thrown at them, and now they had demonstrated that no galactic power could simply impose control over a species that chose its own path. Meanwhile, Captain Elias convened a meeting with his senior officers. "The lesson has begun," he said, "but we are not finished. We did not act recklessly, and we did not destroy them. This was a demonstration, a reminder. We act civilized because we choose peace, not because we are weak. That is the message we must carry forward." Lieutenant Chen's eyes were wide. "Do you think they will return?" "Perhaps," Elias said calmly. "But now they know something vital. Humans are not to be underestimated. They may return with fleets, technology, and strength, but we will be ready. And if they push too far, they will see the full measure of humanity." On the ground, celebrations were quiet but heartfelt. Citizens understood that today had been extraordinary. They had witnessed not destruction, but the triumph of preparation, ingenuity, and collective action. Humanity had acted as one, from engineers to soldiers, civilians to pilots, proving that the species could face any threat and emerge victorious, not by chance, but by design. Across Earth, hidden systems and devices continued to operate, ensuring the planet remained safe. Drones monitored skies, satellites relayed signals, and communications networks preserved the flow of intelligence. Every sector of human society had played a role in the victory, an achievement born not of aggression, but of foresight, discipline, and patience. The Council fleet, retreating into deep space, was forced to rethink its approach. The arrogance that had led them to Earth, the belief that humans could be tamed with lectures, inspections, and minor threats, had been shattered. Reports flowed in from every ship, shields disrupted, communications scrambled, fleets outmaneuvered. Predictions failed. The Council had underestimated the species it had long labeled dangerous. In orbit, Elias addressed his crew. "This is more than a victory," he said. "It is a lesson. Not just for the Council, but for every species that believes power alone defines strength. Intelligence, patience, preparation, and choice define humanity. We have acted civilized because we chose to. That is the power no one can take from us." The aliens had learned at great cost that they could not impose control through fear alone. They had faced the very species they had labeled Deathworlders, and discovered a truth that no calculation, weapon, or strategy could have predicted. Humans could be civilized, patient, and restrained, and yet, when provoked or pushed, they could unleash coordination, creativity, and force that defied expectation. On Earth, people returned to normal life, but there was a subtle shift in awareness. Humanity understood its own strength in a way it had never done before. Soldiers, engineers, scientists, and civilians alike recognized that restraint and intelligence could combine to produce power beyond the galaxy's reckoning. Every individual, in their quiet way, had participated in this awakening. Elias reflected on the events. "We did not seek to humiliate or destroy," he said to Kira. "We sought to remind the galaxy, that humans are not to be underestimated. They may calculate our size, our weapons, our technology, but they cannot calculate our ingenuity, our resilience, or our willingness to act when necessary." Kira smiled. "And they will remember. Every council ship that leaves Earth will carry this lesson." "Yes," Elias said, "and perhaps it will spread farther than we know. Every species that observes the council will learn something new about humanity. That is the true victory. Not destruction, not conquest, but respect, earned the hard way." Across the stars, whispers began to circulate among alien species. The humans are different. They act civilized, but only when they choose to. Push them too far and you will see a force you cannot predict. Elias watched Earth from orbit, its oceans shining, its continents alive with light. "We act civilized because we choose peace," he said. "But when the time comes, we do not fear. When provoked, we are unstoppable." The council fleet, now scattered and regrouping, sent a final communication. "We acknowledge your capability. Compliance is no longer the measure of your civilization. Humanity is unique." Elias leaned back, allowing a moment of satisfaction. Humanity had not sought war, nor had it destroyed unnecessarily. It had acted with restraint, patience, and intelligence, and the galaxy had seen the first true display of Deathworlder power. The council would carry this lesson for generations. On Earth, children looked to the sky, unaware of the details but sensing the change. Soldiers patrolled quietly, engineers returned to their laboratories, and civilians lived their lives with subtle pride. Humanity had shown the galaxy a truth that would endure. Civility is choice, patience is strength, and restraint hides a power no one should underestimate. Elias stood alone on the observation deck for a moment, gazing at the last glimmers of the council fleet. "They underestimated us," he whispered. "They thought civility was weakness. They thought patience was compliance. They were wrong. Humans are patient. Humans are clever. Humans are unstoppable when the time comes." The planet below continued its calm, ordinary rhythm, but the world had changed forever. Humanity had acted civilized, but it had done so by choice, and when it chose to reveal its strength, the galaxy had no defenses against the ingenuity, coordination, and resilience of the Deathworlders. The story of Earth would spread. The Council would rethink its approach. Other species would whisper warnings across the stars. And humans, calm and resilient, would continue to choose when and how to act, civilized, patient, and ready for anything. For the first time in history, humanity had sent a clear message to the galaxy. Do not mistake civility for weakness. Do not assume patience is submission. We are humans. We act civilized because we choose to. And when the time comes, the full strength of Deathworlders will be revealed, and it is a force you cannot predict or contain. Captain Elias Grant turned from the observation deck, his heart steady and his mind focused. The Council had learned a lesson and humanity had proven a truth. Restraint does not equal weakness, and civility is a choice, not a limitation. The stars shone above, quiet and indifferent, yet beneath that silence humanity had made its mark. The day Deathworlders chose to quit acting civilized had begun, and the galaxy would never forget it.